I recently played Poppy Playtime Chapter 1 through 5. This is my review on all of the chapters. I want to say before we get started though is that I started with Chapter 5 as my first chapter. I got into the game a lot later than what everybody else usually started with, which is Chapter 1. I had no prior knowledge of the game. I didn't know any of the mechanics. I didn't know any of the lore. That was my first game. It had recently come out and I wanted to try it out. Everybody loved the series, so I figured why not just start with the one everybody was talking about. The way we're going to rate all of these games is relating them all to each other. This is not going to be relating it to any other horror game, like best all-time horror game. This is the best chapter is going to be like the 10 out of 10. Whatever chapter I say is best is what we're going to compare every other chapter to. I also want to say I didn't have any prior knowledge to this game, like the mechanics and stuff, all that stuff. I didn't do that. If you ever watched my playthrough of Chapter 5, I just didn't know anything. I was just like, these were all completely new puzzles to me and I didn't know any of the mechanics, and I felt like the game expected me to know, but I didn't. So if you ever watch that, please give me some grace. There will be spoilers in this video, just in case anybody hasn't seen Chapter 5 yet, or any of the other chapters, if you're like me and you haven't experienced the chapters before. But yeah, without further ado, we will start like how I started, which is with Chapter 5. So I want to go over these chapters with pros and cons. The pros of Chapter 5. The chase scenes are very unique. I'm going to talk about the chapters as I'm experiencing them, so that's going to be the context. I'm giving you my Chapter 5 review right now as I experienced it in real time. Chapter 5 was my first chapter. So the chase scenes, I think, are one of the best things about Poppy Playtime. It's unique. It was even in the first chapter, but Chapter 5, I felt like they had very unique chase scenes. I didn't really experience any other game like it before that had chase scenes like that. The mechanics were fun, the animations were cool, you felt really in danger at the time, but you didn't feel useless or slow. You felt like you could actually do something about it. The lore is crazy. Even in Chapter 5, I mean, you start off being chased by Huggy, you have no idea what's going on, but you know you've made him angry, he did something, and you're in this giant factory for some reason. I don't even know why, but you could just tell that there's something really crazy going on. Even the section where you go into Huggy's mind and or his memories, and you're able to see what happened to him and brainwashed him, you could really start to see just from there the amount of lore that's in this game, especially as a person like me playing this chapter first. I could see that there was a lot of thought put into it, and that there was just a bunch of stuff we didn't know, and we were in for a ride pretty much. We'll talk about the setting of Chapter 5 now. It's this factory, right? Gigantic, enormous factory, feels like it never ends. You never go to the same place ever, which is different in the first couple of chapters, where in Chapter 4 and 5, I feel like you're never in the same spot ever. Just the fact that the factory is so huge and so daunting makes it feel like such a huge game, such a huge world. So that's one of the things that I really liked about Chapter 5 that some of the other chapters didn't have. The boss fights for Chapter 5 felt really cool, and felt like I'll say for what was her name? Lily Lovebraids. She was a unique one. She wasn't my favorite boss fight, but that was something I wouldn't expect. That was very weird. The boss fight with the prototype was also a very big highlight for that game, just because of how you felt so in danger, so like, oh my god, he's coming to get me, and there's absolutely nothing I can do. Like, I wasn't even sure how I was supposed to get away from him. You're throwing everything you can at him, and he just keeps coming. That feeling of just like there's nothing you can do to stop him was very, I won't say unique. A lot of other games have had that, but the train scene was just crazy. I thought at every point where we were blowing him up, where we were freezing him, I was like, okay, we got him, but he just kept coming. Even at the end, we don't really get him. Awesome boss fight. I really like that boss fight. Here, we also get a good insight into Huggy. So, as somebody who never played the franchise before, I thought Huggy was Poppy. He was the face of Poppy Playtime, so I thought that was Poppy. But he wasn't. At the beginning of the game, I kind of just think, oh, Huggy's just kind of a monster and chases you around. That's it. And then when you get into Huggy's memories, you see that there's a lot more to Huggy than what you initially think, especially for me. All right, let's get into the cons of Chapter 5, which is what I feel like a lot of the community feels like there's a lot of. Personally, I don't think so. One of the cons for me was that the chase scenes just seemed too complicated. It felt like you're in the chase scene, you're being chased, there's this monster coming after you, oh my god, it's scary, and then you kind of get halfway through the chase scene, and then there's a weird mechanic that you kind of did like once, like 3 hours ago. You gotta remember to do that now really quickly, and then you don't, and you kind of, it gets you. That kind of kept happening throughout the game, and it kind of killed the momentum of like, okay, now it's not scary anymore. Now it's just like, what do we, okay, now I gotta do this thing again. Okay, whatever. Why is that a thing? Don't do that. Just make it simple. I just want to get away from him. It's scary already. It's a horror game. Let me play the game. New characters introduced that don't really do much. I thought Giblet might have been bigger in the rest of the games or something, but no, he's introduced in Chapter 5 and doesn't really do much. I get he's kind of afraid of the prototype, so all that stuff, but who's even worse with this is, God, I forgot his name. I don't even remember his name. It's just that the red furry guy, the one who eats you when the prototype comes. He was just kind of there. I don't know why he was there. I get that he was with the prototype in some kind of way, and he kind of was like on the inside and stuff, but just didn't really feel like he was that necessary. Same thing with the little characters. I forget what their name is. The little characters that are scared of the light. The nightmare critters or something like that. They felt very unnecessary and more just an obstacle rather than a monster we're trying to keep away and stuff. There's a couple, like the smiling critters, that kind of reminds me of them. We'll talk about that in Chapter 3. They felt a little unnecessary. It was just kind of like a bit of a slog to get through that, and it just wasn't really that interested in them. The puzzles, so many puzzles, the elevator puzzles, and then it just, and to me, I felt like it might have just been me because the game was expecting me to know some of these mechanics, and I didn't because I hadn't played any other chapters, but they just seemed complicated or took just way too long because I had to find this weird thing in there. It could have just been me. It might have just been a me thing, but I just felt like the puzzles were just a little too like ambiguous, too like, oh my god, I gotta go find this thing over there for some reason. It was in this little hole. It started to get not fun at that point. It was also like, where are we? Why are we here? Why are we doing this? That was another issue that I had with Chapter 5. It was just kind of like Giblet bringing me somewhere, and I'm like, okay, why am I here? What's going on? Why am I here? There's no reason for me to be here. I went to this room that you told me to do, but now I don't know what to do, and now I'm kind of just wandering around, kind of trying to figure it out. It could have been just because I was streaming the gameplay at the same time that I kind of missed some details that maybe they were explaining to me. But yeah, nothing is always overtly obvious that you're just kind of like, oh, okay. I'm just here in this room now. For some reason. I will give Chapter 5 a rating of 7 out of 10 on this one, just because this is my first chapter, and this is my first impression of the game, and I really liked it. I didn't have any of the other experiences with the other chapters yet, and I will also give it a second rating after playing all of the other chapters as well. So once I get past all the other chapters, I will say that rating. Chapter 1 honestly is a personal favorite of mine, but I can't really give it that high of a rating, if I'm being honest. It's creepy. Just the atmosphere is creepy. You're in a creepy factory or whatever, and just seeing Huggy standing there just gave me the creeps immediately, and I just was like, whoa, okay, this is why people like the game so much. When it first came out, I understood it right then and there when I saw Huggy standing in the middle of the room with the light on him, and then he disappears and you don't see him until the end of the game, it was a little sad that it was so short, but I understand it was the first chapter of the game. Puzzles were a lot simpler in this chapter way simpler. I wasn't struggling for 40 minutes on one puzzle. That was amazing to me, because I just came from chapter 5 where I don't know any of the mechanics, I wasn't familiar with anything, and now we have way better puzzles. So, or way simpler puzzles, and I can do them easy. I mean, except for that one at like near the end. I did struggle with that one a little bit, but I feel like, I don't know, I'm just kind of dumb or something. That's kind of, whatever. Another thing, good world building, because you're in this creepy factory, you're like, this thing is huge, especially after the whole chase scene with Huggy. You just start to see like, whoa, this is really big. This is something creepy. You're there to save your coworkers and stuff. Why are you saving your coworkers? This is a factory. What's going on there? Awesome chase scene as well. There's literally like the chase scene with Huggy was one of the scariest parts in the game, in the entire series or chapters. That chase scene, I mean, it's not even that complex or like crazily unique. It was just, that was creepy. That was scary. And I've already played Chapter 5 at that point. I've seen the crazy complex, awesome animation chase scenes, but Chapter 1's chase scene, there's no better chase scene in the franchise other than that one. That one was number one for me. Yeah, that kind of like, that sits at a personal favorite for me. The cons for this one, though, was I felt like the hands weren't as smooth as they were in Chapter 5. They didn't really operate that well. It was short, and I understand it was Chapter 1. It was their first game as an indie game. This is how they got their start, but it was short. It was a short chapter and not much really going on. The batteries was the only thing. That, if you saw that stream, I'm so sorry it took me like 30 minutes to find that last battery. I found the first 3 really great, but that last one was in the most obscure area. It was like on a shelf in the, like, behind the shelf. It was behind the thing. Like, dude, what? It just becomes a try to find something game, and that's not really fun. Like, I understand scavenging for things is like, if it's easy enough, like, it's okay, you know, and that could still be fun, but that was just way too obscure, somewhere weird in like someone's butt crack. Like, that wasn't fun. Again, this is rating it based on the best chapters, so in this series, I think it's a 6 out of 10 at this point. This is my personal favorite, if I'm being honest, but it's a 6 out of 10. Alright, Chapter 2. This is where I feel like the game starts to pick up a little bit. It's creepy. Mommy Longleg's voice in certain scenes where it's just echoey, and you can really feel that the factory's completely empty. That's creepy. It's dark, and you're in this like play area that was riddled with kids at some point, and then now it's completely empty, and now it's like a death trap for you. The factory's starting to feel ginormous, because before you were just with Huggy in that little area. Sure, it was kind of big, but now you're starting to get into like, there's different zones. There's like 3 different zones just for you. At the end, you're being thrown into this giant hole with a train, and you're like, how far does this train track go? Who built this? Why is this here? Who has the funding for this? Why is it a train? I don't know. It starts to get really weird. The voice acting is crazy good in this chapter, by the way. Whoever voiced Mommy Longlegs, amazing. Did a great job. Yeah, the cons in this, I would have to say, is, again, some small glitches. Like, I played Chapter 5 first. I feel like Chapter 5 had the best quality. So having some of the small glitches with like the hands again, I feel like they were still figuring some of that stuff out. And then this is where I feel like they start to introduce this pattern of introduce the character and then kill the character by the end of the chapter, which is, I mean, it's okay. It's nothing, it's all right. Like, I just don't, it's not my favorite thing, because it just makes it seem like, we have this new villain, they're gonna die, move on. Like, that's what it feels like when I'm starting to play the rest of the chapters. Like, we're gonna introduce this new person and then they're gonna die by the end of the chapter. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that, but honestly, it wasn't that big of a deal. The chase scene mechanics for this one, I'm not really a big fan of this one, because of the they brought it. This is where they're starting to bring up the complexity of the chase scenes, and I mean, they're not super complex, but it's just kind of like, when did we bring up the hiding mechanic with anybody? but they expect you to know to hide, especially in the chase scene with Mommy Longlegs at the end, where they're expecting you to grapple onto the pole and then you hide there. They expect you to kind of figure that out. I mean, you just did it, I understand, but that's not a hiding place in your head. Like, that was just a puzzle. And then they kind of want you to figure that out, but it's not really that obvious. And then now it's kind of like, okay, well, now I know Mommy Longlegs is chasing me. Now I gotta go. You know, it's the whole thing with the chase scenes in this game. Hiding in the furnace, it's like, how were you supposed to know to hide in the furnace? I feel like I died so many times that chase scene that it made it feel not as scary. Until she counts down. When she counts down, it gets kind of scary. But yeah, honestly, that chapter gets an 8 out of 10 for me. Mommy Longlegs was a great antagonist. She's not the creepiest, I will say that. She could have been much scarier, just design-wise. I understand she's a kid's toy, but I mean, Huggy was scarier, Catnap was scarier. Everybody seemed more scarier than her, but she had the most potential, I think, out of everybody, and she kind of really didn't fulfill that.
What's the time?
Playtime!
S-M-I-L-E every day! When you are down and out, don't even frown and pout. The smiley face is S-M-I-L-E every day!
Alright, chapter 3. Chapter 3 is where they really start to get into the world building, because now you've just gone like 3 miles down in a train and you're like, what is down here? What is down here, bro? Like, and now you're starting to get into this dome where they built this like little city for the orphans and stuff. Again, who is funding this? Who is funding this? Great antagonist. Catnap is my favorite villain, I think, out of all of them, along with Huggy. Him and Huggy, I think, have the best, because they don't talk to you. They just, like, they're there. Their presence makes you, their presence just makes you worried. Awesome, like, mini bosses, by the way. Like, the Miss Delightful was very scary. Her whole section was, it didn't even feel, when I was getting killed by her, it still felt scary even afterwards. And her whole section just felt, it was the right amount of difficult. It didn't feel like it dragged on, even though it was kind of a long section. It didn't feel like it. Dog Day, I liked the whole cutscene with him. His story was awesome. That was really cool. His chase scene was just kind of annoying, though, because at the end, you're going through the tunnels and stuff, and then it's just kind of like they don't really guide you where to go. It's just kind of trial and error throughout the whole thing, and again, that really takes away from the scariness of it. I liked Dog Day. I liked his jump scare, the way that you're introduced to him, really cool. It's just his chase scene gets to trial and error, and that's the downfall of him. But honestly, I still really like him. And chapter 3, I think, is where the lore really starts to pick up the pace. We have the orphans, we have Catnap, the smiling critters, Dog Day, and Miss Delightful and all his stuff. The dome, and you're starting to get into more of what Elliot Ludwig does, and then like all that stuff. You're really starting to get into the lore of what's going on around you and what Poppy has down there. Also, side note, Poppy, worst character of all time. Hate Poppy. Why is she here? Why do we keep listening to her? She's the reason we're down here. In chapter 2, the whole reason that you're in chapter 3, we could have just gotten the SWAT team at this point. You know, like, we could have just left, gotten the SWAT team, like, hey, there's something going on over there. Like, can we check that out, please? Like, what's going on? But anyways, Poppy, worst friend, worst character ever. Why? The game's named after her, sadly, but whatever. My favorite part of the whole series is in chapter 3, where you're in Home Sweet Home. Now, this part is immediately terrifying. From the radio person, the never-ending hallways, the hallucinations, the scene with Nightmare Huggy coming out of the TV, and you're just listening to somebody talk with that creepy picture. That was such a haunting feeling haven't really experienced in many games. And being chased throughout that whole thing, like just that whole atmosphere was crazy. Like I even got scared by gas in that. Like it was just kind of like everything was creepy there. And they did an amazing job with that part. And I know they took a lot of, well, I don't know if they took a lot, but it seems like they took a lot of inspiration from the Silent Hill PT demo, because that was literally the demo. You're going around in circles in this hallway, and there's a radio person talking, and you keep going back and forth. Even the loop that you go in there where you keep going around and around, that's in that game. And if you've never played that game or seen somebody play that game, you have to watch it, because I mean, that was one of the scariest games I've ever played as well. And that's exactly what Home Sweet Home is like. So they did a really good job of honoring that kind of thing, if they were trying to. But yeah, very, very awesome part of the entire game. My favorite part. The cons of this chapter are, this has got to be one of the most disappointing boss fights of the entire series. I understand the whole gas thing, and the chase scene with Catnap was a little disappointing, because it's just kind of, well, it's Poppy Playtime. It's known for its chase scenes, and it's kind of like, okay, you ran into the elevator, and then it's kind of it. That's it, you know. I expected to be hunted by Catnap at some point. Like I was expecting a really cool scene in the dome area. We're in the city, and like Catnap is prowling like around us. We can't see him or something, and then it never came. I thought it would be really cool, but apparently not. We barely see Catnap as well. Again, I feel like it's just his presence. He's a good villain, because it's just his presence of being there. You hear his name, all this stuff. It's just kind of like, okay, that's somebody we have to watch out for. We really don't want to be near him. The mention of his name and you're in the same area as him, it's just kind of like, well, we gotta be careful. Also, Ollie. Enough said. Chapter 3 gets a rating of 10 out of 10. I think this is the best chapter mechanically, gameplay wise, and it's just all around. I think it's the best chapter, so it gets the 10 out of 10. Again, not a 10 out of 10 a horror game. Like, if we're comparing it to all horror games, it's not a 10 out of 10. But in Poppy Playtime, it's a 10 out of 10. That's the best chapter. Next, this is Chapter 4. I have to say, the most disappointing chapter of the entire series. Chapter 4, the pros of this is the Doctor. The Doctor I thought was a really cool concept. It's just some AI who you're going up against, and he's controlling the area around you, and you can't really do much about it. Like, he's just kind of like, we're having to work to get to him, and then when you finally get to him, his boss fight's really cool. All these robots that he's controlling that you don't really know how they work, and all this stuff. You have to unlock all the batteries, and then you kill him. It's just kind of a little anticlimactic there, but honestly, really great boss fight. Really liked it. His presence throughout the whole thing. It's not as haunting as Catnap or the Prototype or anything like that, but it's pretty good. The atmosphere of Chapter 4 was also really cool. Like when you're going through the I guess graveyard of all the bodies and stuff, and you're just slowly creeping through, and then you get shined by those bright lights and stuff. That's creepy. That set the whole mood for the game. Yeah, I really like that. Another really big plus about Chapter 4 is Doey. Doey is one of my favorite characters. Rip Doey. Gotta love Doey. He was, again, sad to see him leave. We miss you, Doey. The story of Chapter 4 was very, very cool. The whole idea of the Doctor was really cool. The Prototype is coming. Ollie's really the Prototype, and it's just kind of like, well, Poppy, this is another mistake on your part. Kissy's, being hurt. The orphans are being kept in the safe haven. Doey's had to protect them for a while because Poppy again abandoned everybody. Poppy again shown to not be a great decision maker throughout the whole game. It was a very, very awesome story. Now we have to get into the cons of Chapter 4, which there's a lot of. I'll start off with some of the lesser ones. Doey didn't have to go, I get it. Again, this is that pattern, introduce a character, it's gone, they're gone by the end of the thing. But yeah, Doey didn't really have to go. I understand he was mad, but why was he mad at us? We didn't do anything. The puzzles, oh my lord. Again, if you saw my playthrough of the game, the puzzles were again confusing, and some of them were a little less confusing, but because of some of the glitches and stuff that I encountered, it became way worse. Way worse. Again, Poppy Playtime already struggles with the puzzles being a little too difficult, that it becomes a little more unfun. With the bugs introduced now, it just makes it way harder. Also, why do we keep trusting Ollie? I don't know why Poppy keeps trusting Ollie. He's just a voice. We've never met the guy, and we keep trusting him. I don't get it. Whatever. I'm sure there's some lore thing that I don't know about, maybe. I don't know. Maybe she's just that dumb. I don't know. Why do we keep going down further into the factory? That's another thing. Why do we keep going down further? Every elevator that we encounter, we go further down. Every time. Why? Can we just go up for once? Again, let's get the SWAT team. They would have cleared us out by now. Please. Why are we blowing up the factory? Like, I get it that she's saying no trace of the place, whatever. Why are we blowing it up from like 8 miles down now? That's not going to do anything. The factory's up there. This is going to do nothing. Again, this is just me ranting about Poppy. Horrible character. The glitches and the bugs are really what just kills this chapter. There were so many bugs that I encountered. It just killed a lot of the puzzles or the gameplay. The tension that was built was killed by the bugs. I'm just like, I keep thinking I can't figure something out, but it's really just a bug stopped me from being able to progress. I couldn't do it, and I had to look up a YouTube video just to figure out that the game isn't giving me something. It's not reacting the way it should. I try to give grace to games. If a game just came out and there's bugs in it, I understand it happens. But this game has been out for over a year at this point, I think. And their last patch has been for a while. So they've obviously moved on and just kind of like leaving it how it is, and you know, whatever. Like the boss fight with Doey was ruined for me because there was so many glitches at that point. Even in the boss fight, I'm getting sent to the top of the map. I can't really. That's the experience that I've had so far. I'm so confused on how to kill him. I don't know if it's a bug or not, if I'm not doing the right, like, I don't know if it's just me not doing the right thing or if it's the game not letting me do the right thing. That's kind of sad. Like, it's a great game, but it's confusing at that point. I don't know if it's me making a mistake or the game just not being able to respond correctly. That killed that boss fight for me. Luckily, nothing happened at the end when we say bye to Doey. So yeah, because of all the bugs, it killed so many moments for me that it has to be a 3 out of 10. Yeah, some of the bugs I think might have been just because of my frame rate. I know certain games, their physics engines are related to the frame rate of your computer. If it's too high or if it's something like that, things don't act the way they're supposed to. My boss fight with Doey, I don't think would have been completed unless I made my frame rate maxed out at 60. After that, it didn't really give me an issue, but I had to kind of figure that out. Nobody told me. There wasn't a limit set already. I didn't take the limit off. I figured maybe it was that. But yeah, like I said, I was going to rate Chapter 5 again, just because now I have the context of all the past chapters and what everybody else had gone through up to that point. So now I could kind of rate it a little more with a little bit more context, like everybody else had experienced it. So at this point, I've put it down to more of a 6 out of 10, just because this chase scenes got much cooler as it progressed, you know, like from Mommy Longlegs and Catnap's chase scenes, and Chapter 4 starts to kind of live up to that, really, and then Chapter 5, it's like where it really peaks. The animations were also much better, obviously, because I think they have just a bigger budget. It spent more money on that kind of stuff. Cons is like the puzzles start to get really repetitive. How many times do we have to wrap our things around this pole? Kind of starts to get really boring. I don't know, and just kind of like, why do we keep doing this? And there's so many of them, man. There's so many puzzles in Chapter 5. The entire time you're in Chapter 5, I mean, especially after going through all the other chapters, you're really starting to feel like it's just puzzle chasing, maybe puzzle chasing. You know, it's just it starts to get a little boring, and I understand where people come from. But yeah, I don't think it's the worst chapter. I don't think it's one of the worst chapters. I guess in this ranking, it kind of is. If you're a person who likes more, I guess, better, higher production quality kind of games, that kind of falls better into your category. Chapter 5, I think. Before I give like my final thoughts on the whole series, you know, I want to say thank you to all of you guys. Subscriber growth has been crazy. This is awesome. So I can't really say much anything else other than thank you guys so much. The Poppy Playtime community has been really wonderful and giving me the support that you guys have had. It's really cool. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. Viewers, my views are up, subscribers, likes, everything just went up. I've got some people in my streams every night now because of Poppy Playtime. It's really thanks to you guys and the whole community. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate you. Love you. Is Poppy Playtime good? Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, I think so. Interesting story, great lore, great characters, great atmosphere, great setting. It has the makings of a really good story, and honestly, it could be a movie at some point. Though I will say that the story is kind of starting to drag on. Can we just kill the prototype already and move on with it? The gameplay aspects, like I was mentioning before, like the wrapping around the rod to power this and all that, it's the mechanics are starting to get a little repetitive. And we should kind of try to can we move on now? And this goes into the lack of progression that you kind of feel throughout the game. You know, in other games, you kind of unlock this, you become stronger, you become, and in this game, you kind of just feel like you unlock a hand. So you kind of get this little mechanic for a while, and then you kind of lose the hand. And then you just kind of get another hand that does something completely different. And then you lose that hand too. So it just kind of... You never feel like you really progress in this game. Everyone is stretchy in this. Why is everybody stretchy? Like, Huggy has super long arms. Mommy Longlegs stretches like crazy. Catnap gets super long. Doughy's really stretchy. There's so many stretchy people in this game that it just kind of how many people really have really long limbs here? It starts to get kind of again, somebody else with this ability. But with that said, awesome characters. Everybody's very different in other ways. Like Doughy is a lot different from Huggy, But yeah, they're awesome characters. The chase scenes are very unique. If I wanted a chase scene from any game, I'd probably pick a chase scene from Poppy Playtime because they're just some of the best I've ever experienced. So the antagonists are one of my favorite parts about this game, just because of Catnap and Huggy. I just love them. Prototype 2, ever since they started building him up from chapter 2, or even chapter 1 with that tape, but chapter 2 is where you really start to oh my god, what is that? What's going on? The prototype is actually really cool. I mean, even in chapter 5, where I didn't know anything about the story, seeing the prototype, just the legs and stuff, and you're just what in the world is that? What are we fighting against? What is it? Is we're fighting against the Autobots or something. The Starscream's gonna come in and just wreck us. We're only fuzzy little animals, and we're going up against Optimus Prime. I don't know, a Gundam is just what are we doing here? Love the villains. And really the best part about Poppy Playtime is the community. You guys are so interested in this game, constantly giving it life, giving creators like me support for it, creating theories constantly, the music videos, all that stuff. That's crazy. That's awesome. That's stuff that I've seen with Freddy, the Fazbear guy, the other Poppy Playtime type of game, That's the game I grew up with, and then now Poppy Playtime's kind of going through that same thing. Especially with all the theories, dude. I was following every theory for FNAF, and now the same thing's happening with Poppy Playtime. And it's really cool to see that. But yeah, that's been my thoughts. Appreciate you guys watching. I hope you subscribe, like the video, leave a comment down, tell me what you think, tell me your ratings. What do you think? And I hope you guys stick around. I got plenty of other games I want to play. I've already played the Resident Evil Requiem, playing Retro Rewind simulator game, not horror, but come and watch me. I'd appreciate it. Come and join the stream. I stream every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday from 9:30 p.m. to 11 Eastern Standard Time. Come and join me. I'd appreciate you guys coming to watch. I'll see you guys then, alright? Deuces.